Hey there! I'm so excited to talk with you today about something that's probably been on your mind for a while, becoming truly fluent in English. I get messages all the time from people asking me the same questions over and over. What's the secret? How long will it take? Which app should I use? Should I move to an English-speaking country? Well, let me tell you something right now that might surprise you. After working with thousands of English learners over the years, I've discovered there's really only one method that actually works. Just one. And it's probably not what you think it is. Before I share this method with you, let me tell you about Maria. Maria was one of my students from Colombia. She came to me after studying English for 7 years. 7 whole years. She had tried everything. Grammar books, flashcards, expensive online courses, language exchange apps, you name it. But when she spoke to me for the first time, I could barely understand her. She was so frustrated, almost in tears, saying, "I've been studying for so long, but I still can't speak." Does this sound familiar to you? I bet it does. Because this is the story of almost every English learner I meet. They study and study, but they never become truly fluent. They can read, they can understand some things, but when it comes to actually speaking and thinking in English, they feel stuck. Now, here's what's really interesting. Maria is now completely fluent. She works for an American company, she dreams in English, and she even thinks her internal thoughts in English sometimes. What changed? She discovered the same method I'm about to share with you. But first, let me ask you something. What do you think fluency really means? Most people think fluency means knowing lots of vocabulary words, or understanding perfect grammar, or being able to speak without any accent. But that's not what fluency is at all. Fluency is when English becomes automatic for you. It's when you stop translating in your head. It's when you can express your thoughts and feelings naturally without struggling to find words. It's when English feels like a part of you, not something you're trying to learn from the outside. Think about your native language for a moment. When you speak in your native language, do you think about grammar rules? Do you worry about which words to use? Of course not. The words just flow out of you naturally because the language is inside you. That's what real fluency feels like. So how do we get there? How do we make English feel natural and automatic? Well, here's the method that changed everything for Maria and thousands of other students. Are you ready? The only method that works is this. You must live inside the English language every single day. Not study it, live inside it. I know, you're probably thinking, but I can't move to America or England. Don't worry, you don't need to move anywhere. You can create an English-speaking world right where you are. Let me explain exactly how to do this. When I say, live inside English, I mean that English should become the background of your entire day. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, English should be around you, with you, part of your daily experience. Here's what this looks like in practice. When you wake up in the morning, instead of checking your phone in your native language, you check it in English. You read English news, English social media, English everything. When you're getting ready, you're listening to English podcasts, English music, English videos. Not as study material, but as entertainment, as part of your morning routine. During your day, you're thinking in English. Yes, thinking in English. This is crucial. Instead of having thoughts in your native language, you practice having thoughts in English. At first, it feels weird and slow, but with practice, it becomes natural. When you're cooking dinner, you're watching English cooking shows. When you're exercising, you're listening to English music or English fitness videos. When you're relaxing in the evening, You're watching English movies or English YouTube videos, not because you have to study, but because you genuinely enjoy them. This is what I mean by living inside English. English becomes your daily companion, not your homework. Now, let me tell you why this works when other methods don't. Your brain learns languages the same way you learned your native language as a child. Children don't study grammar books or memorize vocabulary lists. They live inside the language. They hear it all day long, they try to use it, they make mistakes, they hear corrections, and slowly, naturally, the language becomes part of them. But here's the problem with most adult language learning. We try to learn English like we're studying math or science. We memorize rules, we do exercises, we take tests. But language isn't like math or science. Language is alive. It's emotional, it's personal. It's something you experience, not something you study. When you live inside English every day, something magical happens in your brain. The language starts to feel familiar. The sounds become natural. The rhythm of the language gets into your body. You start to develop what I call English intuition, where you can feel what sounds right and what sounds wrong, even if you can't explain why. Let me give you a specific example. In English, we say I'm interested in music, not I'm interested for music. Now, you could memorize this grammar rule, or you could just hear this pattern thousands of times until it feels natural. Which do you think works better? Which do you think lasts longer? Which do you think helps you speak more fluently? Of course, it's hearing the pattern thousands of times. When you live inside English, you hear these patterns naturally, automatically, without trying to study them. Your brain picks them up the same way a child's brain picks up language patterns. But here's what's really important. You can't just listen passively. You have to engage with the language emotionally. This is the secret ingredient that most people miss. You need to care about what you're listening to, watching, or reading. If you're watching English videos that are boring to you, your brain won't pay attention. If you're listening to English podcasts about topics that don't interest you, you won't learn much. But if you're watching English videos about your hobbies, your passions, your interests, then your brain is fully engaged. You're not just learning English, you're learning about things you care about through English. This is why Maria became fluent so quickly. She loved cooking, so she started watching English cooking shows every day. Not to study English, but because she genuinely loved learning new recipes. She joined English-speaking cooking communities online. She started thinking about her cooking in English. She even started talking to her ingredients in English while she cooked. It sounds silly, but it worked. The cooking shows taught her natural English conversation, kitchen vocabulary, common expressions, and so much more. But because she was interested in the content, she absorbed everything naturally, without effort. Let me share another story with you. I had a student named David from Japan who was obsessed with basketball. For months, he tried to study English with traditional textbooks, but he was getting nowhere. Then I told him to forget the textbooks and just watch English basketball videos, read English basketball news, listen to English basketball podcasts, and join English basketball forums online. Within 3 months, David's English improved more than it had in the previous 3 years of traditional study. Why? Because he was living inside English through his passion for basketball. He was learning the language through something he loved, so his brain was fully engaged and motivated. This brings me to another crucial point. You need to choose English content that matches your current level, but also challenges you just a little bit. If the content is too easy, you won't learn anything new. If it's too difficult, you'll get frustrated and give up. Think of it like exercise. If you lift weights that are too light, you won't get stronger. If you lift weights that are too heavy, you might hurt yourself. You need to find that perfect level where it's challenging but manageable. For beginners, I recommend starting with English content that has visual support, like cooking shows, travel videos, or simple documentaries. The images help you understand even when you don't understand all the words. For intermediate learners, you can try podcasts, news videos, or movies with subtitles. For advanced learners, you can challenge yourself with complex podcasts, books, or academic content. But here's something really important. Don't worry about understanding everything. I repeat, don't worry about understanding everything. This is a big mistake that many learners make. They think they need to understand every single word, so they stop and look up words constantly, or they give up because they feel overwhelmed. Instead, focus on understanding the general idea, the main message. Let the details come naturally over time. When you live inside English every day, you'll hear the same words and phrases over and over again in different contexts, and gradually, their meanings will become clear to you. Think about it this way. When you were a child learning your native language, did you understand everything adults said around you? Of course not. But you understood enough to follow along, and slowly, your understanding grew deeper and deeper. This is called comprehensible input in language learning theory, and it's incredibly powerful. You need lots and lots of English input that you can mostly understand, but that also contains some new elements for you to learn. Now let's talk about output, which means speaking and writing. This is where many learners get stuck. They can understand English well, but they can't produce it fluently. Why does this happen? It happens because they're not practicing output enough, or they're practicing it in the wrong way. Here's what I mean. Most people practice speaking by doing grammar exercises or repeating phrases from textbooks. But this doesn't prepare you for a real conversation. Real conversation is spontaneous, emotional, and personal. You need to practice expressing your own thoughts and feelings in English, not just repeating other people's words. So how do you practice output when you're living inside English? Here are some practical ways. First, start talking to yourself in English. Yes, I'm serious. Talk about your day, your plans, your feelings, your opinions. It might feel strange at first, but it's incredibly effective. Second, write in English every day. Keep an English diary, write English social media posts, send English messages to yourself. The key is to express your own thoughts, not copy from textbooks. Third, if possible, find opportunities to use English with other people. This could be online language exchanges, local English conversation groups, or even just commenting on English videos and posts online. But here's the most important thing about output practice. Don't worry about making mistakes. Mistakes are not your enemy, they're your teacher. Every mistake you make and notice is helping your brain understand the language better. I remember Maria telling me about her first English conversation with a native speaker after she started living inside English. She made lots of mistakes, but she could communicate. She could express her ideas, share her feelings, and have a real conversation. She was so excited because she realized that fluency isn't about perfection, it's about communication. This brings me to another important point about mindset. Many English learners have perfectionist mindsets that actually slow down their progress. They're so afraid of making mistakes that they don't practice speaking enough. They're so focused on having a perfect accent that they don't focus on communicating clearly. But fluency comes from practice, not perfection. Native speakers make mistakes too. Native speakers use simple words sometimes. Native speakers don't always have perfect grammar. What makes them fluent is that they can communicate naturally and automatically. So give yourself permission to be imperfect. Give yourself permission to make mistakes. Give yourself permission to sound like a learner while you're learning. This is the only way to eventually sound fluent. Now, let me address some common questions and objections I hear about this method. First question, how long does this take? Well, it depends on several factors. Your current level, how much time you spend living inside English each day, and how engaged you are with the content. But I can tell you that students who use this method consistently see significant improvements within 3 to 6 months, and most reach conversational fluency within 1 to 2 years. Compare that to traditional study methods, where people often study for many years without becoming truly fluent. The difference is dramatic. Second question, do I need to live in an English-speaking country? Absolutely not. In today's connected world, you can create an immersive English environment anywhere. In fact, some of my most successful students have never left their home countries. The internet gives you access to unlimited English content, English communities, and English conversation partners. Third question, what about grammar? Don't I need to study grammar rules? Here's the truth about grammar. When you live inside English and pay attention to patterns, you absorb grammar naturally. You develop a feel for what sounds right and what sounds wrong. This intuitive grammar knowledge is actually more useful than memorized grammar rules because it helps you speak fluently and naturally. That said, if you're curious about why something works the way it does, it's fine to look up grammar explanations occasionally. But don't make grammar study your main focus. Make living inside English your main focus, and let grammar knowledge develop naturally. Fourth question, I don't have time to do this every day. I understand that everyone is busy, but here's the thing. You don't need extra time. You just need to change how you spend the time you already have. Instead of scrolling through social media in your native language, do it in English. Instead of watching TV in your native language, watch it in English. Instead of listening to music in your native language, listen to English music. You're not adding more activities to your day, you're just changing the language of the activities you already do. This makes it sustainable and realistic. Fifth question, what if I don't understand anything at the beginning? This is normal and expected. Remember, understanding comes gradually. Start with content that has visual support, choose topics you're interested in, and focus on getting the general idea rather than understanding every word. Your comprehension will improve faster than you think. Let me share one more success story with you. I had a student named Ahmed from Egypt who was struggling with English for his engineering job. He tried many different methods, but wasn't making progress. Then he started living inside English through engineering YouTube channels, English engineering podcasts, and English technical forums. Not only did his English improve dramatically, but he also became much better at his job because he was learning advanced engineering concepts in English that weren't available in Arabic. He got promoted twice in 1 year, partly because of his improved English skills and partly because of his expanded technical knowledge. This is another beautiful benefit of living inside English. You're not just learning a language, you're expanding your entire world. You have access to more information, more communities, more opportunities, and more perspectives. Now, I want to give you some specific, practical steps to start implementing this method today. Step 1. Choose your English ecosystem. Pick 3 to 5 types of content that you genuinely enjoy. This could be cooking shows, travel videos, business podcasts, fitness channels, music, news, or anything else that interests you. The key is that you must be genuinely interested, not just studying. Step 2. Replace your native language media consumption with English media consumption, gradually. You don't have to do everything at once. Start by changing one thing. Maybe watch English videos instead of native language videos in the evening. Once this becomes a habit, change something else. Maybe listen to English podcasts during your commute instead of native language radio. Step 3. Practice thinking in English. Start with simple thoughts like "I'm hungry" or "It's a nice day." Gradually work up to more complex thoughts about your plans, your opinions, and your feelings. This might feel awkward at first, but it's incredibly important for developing fluency. Step 4. Engage actively with the content. Don't just passively watch or listen. Comment on videos, discuss posts, ask questions, and share your opinions. The more you engage, the more you learn. Step 5. Be patient and consistent. Language learning is like fitness. You don't get strong by working out intensely for 1 week and then stopping. You get strong by working out regularly for months and years. Same with English fluency. You get fluent by living inside English consistently over time. Step 6. Track your progress, but not in the traditional way. Don't focus on how many words you've memorized or how many grammar rules you know. Instead, notice when understanding becomes easier, when thinking in English becomes more natural, when expressing yourself becomes more fluid. These are the real signs of progress. Step 7. Find your English identity. This might sound strange, but it's important. When you speak English, you're not just translating your native language thoughts. You're becoming a slightly different version of yourself. Embrace this. Let yourself be a little different in English. Let yourself have an English personality that might be a bit different from your native language personality. Many of my students tell me that they feel more confident, more outgoing, or more creative when they speak English. This is normal and wonderful. Different languages can bring out different aspects of your personality. Let me address one more important point. Some people worry that focusing so much on English might make them lose connection with their native language and culture. This is a valid concern, but in my experience, learning English deeply actually makes you appreciate your native language and culture even more. When you can compare and contrast languages and cultures, you understand both more deeply. You become a bridge between worlds, which is an incredible gift. You don't lose your identity when you become fluent in English, you expand it. I also want to emphasize the importance of patience with yourself during this process. There will be days when you feel like you're not making progress. There will be moments when you feel frustrated or discouraged. This is completely normal. Every fluent English speaker has been through these feelings. The key is to remember that language learning isn't linear. Some days you'll feel great about your English, other days you'll feel like a beginner again. This up and down pattern is part of the journey. Trust the process and keep living inside English, even on the difficult days. One thing that really helps is to celebrate small victories along the way. Maybe you understood a joke in an English video. Maybe you thought of the perfect word quickly during a conversation. Maybe you dreamed in English for the first time. These little moments are precious. They're signs that English is becoming part of you. Let me also talk about the role of community in this journey. Learning English can feel lonely sometimes, especially if you're doing it on your own. But remember, You're part of a huge global community of English learners and speakers. Millions of people around the world are on the same journey as you. Try to connect with this community. Join English learning groups online. Participate in English forums about your interests. Find language exchange partners, or even just interact with English content creators by commenting on their videos or posts. Having a sense of community makes the journey more enjoyable and motivating. Now, I want to talk about something that's often overlooked but incredibly important: the emotional aspect of language learning. Learning a new language isn't just a cognitive process, it's an emotional one too. When you live inside English every day, you're not just learning words and grammar. You're learning to feel comfortable with ambiguity, to be okay with not understanding everything, to be brave enough to make mistakes, to be patient with yourself during the slow moments, and to celebrate progress even when it feels small. These emotional skills are just as important as the language skills themselves. They're what allow you to keep going when things get difficult, and they're what make you a confident, natural English speaker in the end. I've noticed that my most successful students aren't necessarily the ones with the best memory or the most time to study. They're the ones who develop a healthy emotional relationship with English. They learn to enjoy the process, to be curious rather than worried when they don't understand something, and to see mistakes as interesting learning opportunities rather than failures. This mindset shift is powerful, not just for English learning, but for life in general. Learning to be comfortable with being a beginner, learning to persist through challenges, learning to find joy in gradual progress, these are valuable life skills that extend far beyond language learning. As we come toward the end of our time together today, I want to leave you with some final thoughts and encouragement. First, remember that becoming fluent in English is absolutely possible for you. I don't care what your age is, what your educational background is, how many times you've tried and felt like you failed before, or what your current level is. If you commit to living inside English consistently, you will become fluent. I've seen it happen hundreds of times with students from all different backgrounds and situations. Second, remember that this journey is not just about learning English. It's about expanding who you are as a person. You're developing new ways of thinking, new ways of expressing yourself, and new connections with the world. You're becoming a more globally connected, culturally aware, and mentally flexible person. That's something to be proud of, regardless of where you are in your English journey. Third, remember to enjoy the process. Yes, there will be challenges and frustrating moments, but there will also be moments of joy, discovery, and connection. Pay attention to these positive moments and let them motivate you to continue. Fourth, remember that fluency is not a destination. It's a journey. Even native English speakers are constantly learning new words, new expressions, and new ways to communicate. Language is alive and always growing, so give yourself permission to always be learning and improving, even when you're already fluent. Finally, remember that you have everything you need to succeed. You don't need expensive courses, you don't need to move to another country, you don't need perfect conditions. You just need commitment, consistency, and the willingness to live inside English every single day. The method I've shared with you today has worked for thousands of my students, and it can work for you too. But remember, knowing about the method isn't enough. You have to actually do it. You have to start living inside English today, not tomorrow, not next week, but today. So here's my challenge for you. After you finish listening to this, make one small change immediately. Choose one piece of content you would normally consume in your native language and consume it in English instead. Maybe it's a YouTube video, maybe it's a news article, maybe it's a podcast episode. Just one small change to start your journey of living inside English. Then tomorrow, make another small change. And the day after that, another one. Before you know it, you'll be living inside English, and your fluency will start developing naturally and automatically. Remember, you're not just learning English, you're transforming your entire relationship with the language and with yourself as a learner and communicator. That's incredible. That's powerful. That's something to be excited about. I believe in you. I believe in your ability to become fluent. And I believe that your English journey will open up amazing opportunities and experiences in your life. The only question is, are you ready to start living inside English today? Your fluent English future is waiting for you. All you have to do is take the first step. I can't wait to see where this journey takes you.